Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Cave. I work here at the University of Leicester in the Future Students Office. So this next session is the computer science talk. Hopefully you're here for that department. If not, now's the time to quickly leave and find the right one. But hopefully you're all here for computer science. So my role over the next 45 minutes is just to quickly introduce the session, and then I will pop back on towards the end. And any questions that you have, please put them into the Q&A chat box, which you should be able to find either at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on which device you're using. And if you pop them into there, I will then ask them to our academic member of staff, who will be able to hopefully answer the questions at the end. So with that in mind, I will hand over to my colleague, Dr. Roy Kroll from the Computer Science Department, and he will take you through the talk. So Roy, over to you.
Okay, many thanks, Nick. So welcome everybody to this afternoon's session on computing degrees at Leicester. My name is Roy Kroll and I'm currently the Deputy Head of the School of Informatics. So let's start out this afternoon's session with a question. So why choose Leicester? So let's have a few high-level answers to this. According to the Times Higher Education World University Rankings, we're in the top 25 best UK universities. Something that may be of interest to you is that Leicester is a very affordable place to live. We're the third most affordable city. And our students do very well with employability. So according to DLHE statistics, we have a 94% employability rate, and I'll say a little bit more about employability later on. Times Higher puts us 21st in the world for sustainability, and of course if you're a student, you may be very interested in the fact that we have a top 20 students union. Okay, so let's go into a little bit more detail. So why would you study the computing subjects at Leicester? I've already mentioned excellent job prospects, and according to the UniGuide 2020, the vast majority of our students, so 97%, are either employed or indeed in further study after 6 months. And if we go to the Times Higher, the Good University Guide 2021, we're ranked 27th in the UK for teaching computer science. Now, we have a number of exciting new degrees. I'll mention these later on in a little bit more detail. I'd also like to tell you the fact that a couple of years ago, we had a major curriculum review, which in fact I was in charge of. So even the core degrees that we've run for a number of years have been substantially updated very, very recently. So everything is state of the art. And in particular, our degrees are accredited by the BCS. Staff here are experts in their subjects, and that's important for teaching. But we also provide a very supportive environment at Leicester. And as much as we can, we'll actually tailor what we do to individual learning needs. In the first year in particular, we'll provide a lot of individual support. That's both academic and also in terms of welfare and pastoral needs. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do later on. If you're interested in industrial placements, maybe having a year in industry, we can offer very high quality placements. And we can do that at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. So most of you here today will be interested in the undergraduate degrees, but of course there is a fourth year at master's level if you're interested. But the industry package, as I say, is very well supported at Leicester and is available at all levels. So if you come here, moving ahead, you're going to leave with a degree. But you'll also have a lot of what we might term work experience. And one reason for that is that many of our courses are hands-on and they're practice-based. And for example, projects that we run are often commissioned by real clients. We're a research-focused department, and so the teaching that we do is research-led. And that's also very important. It means that if you come here, you'll be able to work on both industrial and research style projects alongside the experts in the department. And here's one example of what we do. I'll say a little bit more about this later on. So we have a speciality in autonomous vehicles, and we'll come to that in due course. We've got a brand new lab, okay, especially for informatics, so a great study environment, and that will be open 24/7. And if you're interested in gaming, there's in fact a brand new esports lab. So we'll be running things for you at both professional and amateur level, so there are opportunities for everybody there. Okay, so let me begin to say a little bit more about the School of Informatics itself. I was just mentioning the fact that we have a new computer lab. So here's our new home number 1. Brand new computing lab in the Percy G building. Construction has just been finished recently, and if you can see my mouse pointer, informatics has the entire top floor of this new building, and there is a brand new computer laboratory that will be available. And this is part of a very wide and large-scale investment project that the university is running. And let me also mention New Home 2. So this is a picture of the Ken Edwards building, and in fact staff will be making a move. So academic staff, research students, professional services teams will all be housed in the Ken Edwards building in due course. Now, if you're a student applying here, you might be saying, well, that's all very well. I love the new lab, but what does Ken Edwards offer for me as a student? Well, one answer to that is that there are new student common rooms available, lecture rooms, and of course, staff and students will be able to mix and chat, COVID permitting, of course, in this new building. So we're all looking forward to this, and 2 examples of some of the infrastructure that we can offer to you. OK, so let me move on to a little bit of detail about our degrees. So first of all, some very general comments. So how have we designed our degrees at Leicester? We're hoping that we can get you to experience what I would say is, the exciting world of computing. So things here are very much state of the art, and of course you're going to have to study hard, but we hope that we'll be providing for you a really entertaining and exciting degree. So what do we do? Well, we will meet the practical needs, both current and to some extent the future needs of industry. Okay, so we will teach you hands-on knowledge and skills that you can apply straight away. But computing is a very fast-moving subject, and the other thing that we'll do is to lay some of the theory and foundations of the subject. And these are skill sets and knowledge that will last you a lifetime. Okay, so it's very important that we provide both of these things. And just an aside comment, we run degrees in computer science and software engineering, and we have a common semester 1. And if you come here on either of those degrees, but decide you'd like to change, you can do so during or towards the end of semester 1. So let me say a few words about the degrees that we're offering. So first of all, BSc Computer Science. A few very high-level comments. We will teach you some of the foundations of the subject, and that will involve you in doing some mathematics. You'll be able to do lots and lots of programming. That underpins, of course, everything that we do here. You'll learn, of course, about new technologies and also about how applications are made within the subject area. So a bit more about computer science details later on. Next, we've got software engineering. So how does that compare to computer science? So roughly speaking, the software engineering degree has about 3/4 in common with computer science. So all of the core computer science material you'll still learn. However, in the additional modules that you take, there's more of a focus on applications and business. We've got a relatively new degree on creative computing. So what's that all about? This is rather different from the computer science offering. And what you'll be able to do, of course, is to learn some computing skills. But this degree is all about looking at the creative side of things and applications. So, for example, you might be interested in how high-level technical videos are made within the entertainment industry and within cinema, for example. And that's just one example of the sort of creative approaches to things that you can learn in creative computing. And then finally, another new degree, computer science with enterprise. So that also is quite similar to the core of computer science, but you'll take additional modules on subjects such as entrepreneurship, leadership. There's more that concerns accounting and finance, and you'll also learn a little bit about marketing. And with all of the degrees that we run, if you would like to have a year in industry, you can do so. Or if you want to study for a year abroad, that's also possible as well. Okay, so let me continue. Let's say a bit more about the first year in computer science and software engineering. There's a common semester one. So as I mentioned, this will give some opportunity for you to change degrees if you wish. When you first come here, you can see that you'll do some mathematics, computing and programming fundamentals. These are fun subjects, fun modules, but we do try to make sure that you get to know the basics when you arrive, so the core elements of the field. Whether you've done maths before or not, there's an interesting mathematics module, and the material that we cover there will support you in the work that you do throughout the degree. Computing fundamentals will give you a general introduction to a number of different subjects. There will be some introductions to the web and the internet in that module. Also, we'll teach you a little bit of computing history. So there'll be a couple of lectures within that module that will take you through some of the key high level and important steps in the development of our subject. Programming, that's all about Python. So we'll start you off with the Python language, and you'll also do a module on called computer architecture, in which you'll learn about, well, some more about software, but also about the hardware of the subject. In fact, actually, I teach that module, and you'll learn about two important languages. One is called ARM, that you may have heard of, the ARM instruction set. Often your devices, like your phone, there's a fairly high chance that that works using the ARM language. And we also look at MIPS, which that MIPS language has been around for a while now, but it's still very much in industrial production and use. There are a number of companies that do graphics that make use of that. Okay, so on to semester 2, introduction to object-oriented programming. So you'll also learn some Java, and this will take your programming further on. Python continues, so we have a module on algorithms, data structures and advanced programming. So that will take you further into the technical world of computer programming. What about the next module? What's professional practice? Here we teach you how to behave as professionals. So for example, things like the Data Protection Act and computing law will be introduced in this module. And what about requirements engineering? Suppose that you are a client, maybe you're a company, and you believe that you need some form of new software system. So you speak to the experts who are going to design and build your system. What's really important is that the computer scientists and engineers understand your requirements. And it's also important that you understand at a certain level what it is that the computer scientists are going to produce for you. Very important subject, because many really expensive projects, I'm sure many of you are aware these days, often go wrong, and we end up with often costs of many millions where things haven't worked out properly. And one of the key reasons is that things are not quite right at the beginning of the project because the simple fundamental requirements are not clear. So those are the kinds of things you'll learn there. If you're doing computer science, we've got a foundations module. We'll look at little theoretical models of computation, and that will really give you a lot of development and progress in understanding the theory of our subject. If you do software engineering, then we have a bit more focus on business and finance. And in fact, there's a dedicated module that will cover the computing side of, indeed, finance and business. Okay, so what about the rest of the time that you're here? So second year up to fourth year. Let me just give you a general idea of what we offer. So in the red text here are some high-level topics that we support. Software development and human-computer interaction. If you're interested in AI, that's a big specialism here, so artificial intelligence and also looking at physical systems that are driven by AI-like software. Big data, we have a number of experts on that and machine learning. And if you're interested in security and, of course, cloud technology, we cover that too. And you can do lots of modules that I've just termed advanced studies. So although they're not on the slide here, there are some modules that will teach you more about the foundations of the subject. One of them will look at the theory of concurrent programming, so you can understand the theories of data networks and also how parallel communication and networking works in general. Let's just pick a couple of these and look at them in detail. So software development, I've already mentioned requirements, so you can take that subject to a higher level. Especially in the second year here, you'd learn about techniques for designing software and looking at the very high level architecture and structure of big software projects. More on user interfaces, how to design and build them. Lots more programming. You can go on to do more Java. There are other languages that we will teach, for example, C++, and there are opportunities for you to learn other languages as part of project work. Another thing that's very important is that when you produce software, that it's of good quality and that it has also been tested well. And so we have specialist modules for those topics. Let's just go down to big data and drill down a little more. Data management and analytics we will cover. An area of machine learning, computational intelligence, so intelligent computer systems, you can study that. And how do you analyze big data? We're all well aware these days that often as part of running the country, government, other big organizations, understanding big data sets is very important, and you'll learn more about that. So there's some other subjects that are listed here on the slide. I won't talk about each of these in detail now. If you'd like a full list of our modules that are available, then you can look on our website and find out those details. Let me move on. What about teaching and learning? So how are we innovative? Let me say a few words about this. In the first year, I've mentioned that we teach Python and Java. Now, we have something called the checkpoint system, and this tries to make sure that everyone's engaged. And especially if you're a student that's very new to programming, what the checkpoint system does is it allows us to set each week a few simple questions, okay? Everyone has to do them. They don't necessarily contribute to your assessment, but what it enables us to do is to see that everyone's participating and that with these simple questions, everyone has actually been able to make progress. And any problems there, of course, we'll step in and try to give you extra help. What about at the other end of the spectrum? Supposing you come here and although you're going to learn new things with this, you already have quite a lot of knowledge and you want to be challenged. So another thing that we will do in many of our modules is to set starred questions. So these are more difficult problems. They will not necessarily contribute to your final assessments, but it means that you can do those problems, have some challenge and really learn a lot more about the subject. Second year, let me mention software engineering groups. So you do a group project, and here we'll try to get you to work with real clients. So a little while ago, there was a big project where the university students actually worked with the university hospitals of Leicester to develop a new piece of teaching and development software for the medical profession. And finally, third year projects, lot of scope here. If you're interested in technology, we have technology projects. If you're more interested in foundations and maybe some of the research we do, opportunities there. And also either industrial based or entrepreneurial projects are offered. We're well supported by local startup companies. The entrepreneurial projects were shortlisted for a Midlands Business Award. And some of our students will take part in Dragon's Den style events. These will be supported by some of our local companies, and students would compete for funding. And here's a picture of one of our students, Salma Saeed. She graduated a little while ago. In fact, actually, I visited her at her placement, and she's now working for IBM. So I think that's one of our success stories. OK, let me say a little bit more about research. So this is a research-led department. We work at the cutting edge of technology. A lot of the time, as well as doing foundations, we're always setting out to solve tangible problems. OK, I'm sure many of you are aware computing, this is a very rapidly moving, fast changing, innovative subject. OK, and obviously it's vital to feed research into teaching, and that's what we strive to do here. So we have a number of areas that produce internationally excellent research. AI is supported, software engineering, computer science in general, and in particular the foundations of the subject, and also data science. And often what we do will lead to new developments in industry. Let me say a little bit about final year modules and projects. So many of these are built around the research that we do. I mentioned, I think, a concurrency module, and if that's the kind of module where you'll learn about things that have just recently been developed by researchers. We also try to work with students to disseminate the work that we do, and sometimes happens occasionally we can actually produce with our students real research publications. So let me just say a little bit more about that now. So I'm very pleased to have this slide. It says the Best Foundation Paper Award, and it's awarded to Yang Ringat, who is one of our staff, and actually an MSc student, Saeed Wakiwali. And they wrote a paper called Semantic Comparisons of Alloy Models. And we heard just a couple of days ago that they'd won this award. It's a financial contribution. And this paper was presented at the Conference on Model-Driven Engineering Languages and Systems. So that was the 2020 Models Conference. And I've also got the next slide. So here's their Distinguished Paper Award, awarded to our student and our member of staff. This is supported by the ACM, that's the Association for Computing Machinery, which is a worldwide organisation that supports computing. So very well done to them. And I'm hoping that gives you an illustration of the kinds of things that we're doing at Leicester. And yes, this is an MSc student, but there'll be chances throughout the degree, right from your first year when you come, to get involved in lots of exciting work. A little bit more about research-informed teaching. I've mentioned AI. It's important that AI is trustworthy. Okay, so is artificial intelligence trustworthy? Can it be trusted? Here are two of our students, and you can see them here with a little model autonomous vehicle, and they were doing some work in this area. So let me actually move on slides. A couple of years ago, Audi ran the Autonomous Driving Cup, and the competition took place in Germany, and we had a team, and they prepared for a long time. There was 3.5 months of pretty arduous preparation, and they were able to look at various approaches to autonomous driving. And the competition allowed all of the participating teams to work on the very large track that you can see here and perfect their techniques. So our team was working among around 15 top European teams on autonomous vehicles. So those are, again, the sorts of things you can join in with. Let me say a bit about how we can support you. When you arrive here, you'll have a personal tutor. So, for example, I'm a personal tutor this year to around 17 or 18 new students. What does that mean? That means that I'm here to support you both academically, but in particular in terms of your welfare. In the first year, what we do is we run some small group tutorials, and we also run some individual tutorials. And as well as just checking how you are and how you're doing, in the first year, as an introduction, we will try to give you additional supporting skills as well as what you're going to learn academically. So, for example, we've just run a little session on time management, and we've explained to our first year students what some of the good and bad ideas in time management are, and we're encouraging them to apply those ideas to their study in their degree. As you go on through the degree, we'll encourage more independence, but your personal tutor will remain with you throughout your degree. So you have one key personal point of contact. And of course, we hope everything will go very well for you. But if you do have any issues or problems, then we're here to support you. Just mentioning the employability tutor and careers tutor. Looking ahead, we do have experts here to support you in obtaining jobs. And we have quite an active industrial advisory board that links industry with what we're doing in terms of our teaching. There's a lot of pastoral support from the school and the university. And let me also mention it here, another innovation in our school. We have what's called the student learning community, and this runs academic events and also will support you from a welfare point of view. Two quick examples. Recently, we've actually run an online movie night as part of the learning community. And also our undergraduate students are able to get involved in delivering some teaching and supporting our laboratories and running those laboratories. Obviously always supported by academic staff, but if you wish, you can get involved with those kinds of things through the SLC. And let me just finish this slide by mentioning at university level, there's the student support service that will give you further academic support, and the student welfare service. They're there to support you on wider welfare issues. Again, I hope everyone will have a fun and successful time here. But for example, if you had maybe some issues with finances, so those are things beyond what the academics could assist you with, then the university services are there to help you out. A few words about extra years. So in industry, there are a number of big companies that you can work with, although many of our students have successful placements in smaller companies. We run a strong support system and we'll give you a lot of help in applying for placements, and we have essentially 100% success rate. So all of our students who engage with this process properly and put in some time and energy, they will certainly get placements. And this gives you a big advantage in experience, skills, job prospects, and so on. If you don't want to have a year out, our degrees will still set you up extremely well for employment and further study. And also, just to mention the year abroad, you can study at universities like Rome, Valencia, Frankfurt. Also, there are destinations in Asia and the USA. And I'm aware that because of Brexit, there's some uncertainty about the Erasmus programme, but let me assure you that Leicester is guaranteeing grant support if there are Brexit issues. So the message broadly is come to Leicester and we'll do whatever we can to support you. A few words about applying to Leicester before I head towards the end of the talk. We ask people to apply through UCAS. The offers that we make are available on the website. A few brief comments here. Typical A-level offers are of the order of A, B, B. We look at the extended project, We have for CS and so computer science and software engineering, slight differences in the GCSE maths grades that we're looking at. 45 credits from the Access to Higher Education diploma, 30 of which at a distinction level. The International Baccalaureate we'll accept, but we have 1 or 2 specific requirements. So they're listed on this slide. I won't look at them in detail here, but obviously the full details are available after the talk and through the admission service. And we also encourage BTEC applications, but we do ask for a high level of application. So we're normally looking at D star, D star, D star. OK, so let me kind of wind things up by saying you're free to contact us. Specific questions about the course, you might like to email our admissions tutor. You can ask any questions of anybody, but more university focused questions, perhaps about accommodation and such like, please address to the admissions inquiries email address. And just to mention, I'm Deputy Head of School. You can also email Professor Lulu, who's our Head of School, if you like. So just to wind things up, we're looking for students who we hope can thrive with responsibility and leadership. We're looking for people who have empathy for others and care about other people. I think that's very important. Treating other people with respect. We'd like people who nonetheless are resilient and can manage uncertainty, and maybe on the more academic side of things, people who can solve problems and also want to learn more about problem solving. And I've said that we'll give you a lot of support, but also people who can maybe learn more about learning to work independently. I think it's very important that we produce graduates who can do that, can stand on their own 2 feet, and of course do independent work. So final comment is about our history. We're coming up to 100 years. So University College of Leicester was first supported financially in 1918, and 100 years later, Sir David Attenborough actually opened and dedicated our Centenary Square, which is in the middle of our campus. So our celebrations will culminate in 2021. So there should be plenty going on in the next, indeed, couple of years connected with this celebration. So at this point, I have finished my talk, so I'll hand back to Nick.
Thank you very much, Roy. That was great. We've had quite a few questions come in, so I'll get straight into them.
OK.
At the top. So going back to near the start of the talk, and I think these are all anonymous questions. So when you say tailor to our needs in terms of learning style, does this present the opportunity to demolish exams? And this, by their own admission, they say I don't do well in exams. So I think touching upon how many exams are involved in assessment. Yes,
yeah. I mean, you know, we're an university institution, so we have to have a good balance between trying to support students individually and getting them to become independent. And I've just spoken about that. So be able to learn by themselves. As I say, there is particular individual support in the first year, and that's kind of both sort of the welfare side of things. And also I mentioned this sort of range of questions academically. Now, in terms of coursework and exam, we're accredited by the BCS, and for various professional reasons, we have a mixed range of assessments. So when you take a module, the broad assessment patterns are already established. So we think it's important that there are a number of exams as part of our assessment. OK, so if you do join a module and it has an exam, then we would ask you to take that. You would need to do that as part of the assessment. These days, we have a broad spectrum of assessment. So what we do is we have a more exams focused approach to the subjects where we think that better enables both your learning and also how we assess you. And for example, project-based work, of course, that's essentially 100% coursework. So we have a real mix of things. Mini projects, there'll be some essay writing, there will be exams, and so on. So I think that's probably a broad answer to the question. Hopefully that's helped.
Yeah, that's great, Roy. No problem. So the next question is, what type of units are taught within the maths foundation part of computer science?
Right. OK, so the module I mentioned in particular is first year. So there will be a little bit of work on topics such as sets and functions. There will be some topics on graph theory. So in understanding how computers communicate and how they network, there's an area of study called graph theory, so that will be part of that. We teach some material on probability and statistics. So I was talking about topics like big data and the analysis of data. So things like probability and stats will feed into those kinds of modules. There is a little bit of work on topics such as matrices. Matrices are very important for supporting work in computer graphics. So in computer graphics, you have to do computations that involve two-dimensional and three-dimensional coordinates. And many of these are based on the area of matrices. So those are some of the things that we teach there. We only have this one first year specific module that teaches maths for its own sake, as it were, for individual topics that support what we do. But there are a few other modules through the degree. They tend to be a little bit, they tend to be optional, where, as I say, if you're interested in the more mathematical aspects, then you can take them. So I think, yeah, that's what I would say.
Brilliant, thank you, Roy. Next question, why do 90% of universities teach Java? Isn't it redundant in industry now?
That's a fair question. So let me give a couple of answers to that. We have moved recently so that Java is not our key language in the first year. I've mentioned that we're teaching Java. So not that long ago, we were, like many places, actually giving, 2 courses in Java. So that's now been reduced. However, while language use changes, I mean, there are still a lot of areas of industry that do use Java. But let me say something else, which I think is also very important here. There are many, many languages. I'm probably the person who asked the question is well aware of how quickly things change. What we try to do at Leicester, even as part of our practical modules, like programming, is we do try to teach the fundamentals. So in learning Python and in learning Java, we won't just naively teach you how to sort of turn the handle for those languages. We'll also teach you what's happening under the bonnet. And so those foundational ideas you'll be able to apply in learning other languages. Because I mean, I've been doing this subject and this job for quite a while, and I think whatever languages we teach, there will always be thoughts as to why we might do one or another. So that's what we're focusing on. There are lots of opportunities later on in the degree to look at other languages, and above all else, it's important that within our practical teaching, we'll give you broad foundations as well, so that you're adaptable when you leave. So yeah, that's my answer there.
Brilliant, thank you, Roy. So we've still got a few more minutes, so we'll try and get through as many questions as we can. Sure. Do we touch on theoretical parts of super and/or quantum computing? Right.
At the moment, we don't run a level 3 module. However, if you're doing project work, and you would like to do work at that level on quantum computing, then there are experts in the department who would be able to guide you through a project. Maybe it's worth saying that making a comment about Midlands cooperation. I mean, this is slightly sort of tangential, but it feeds into my answer. There are some good groups that we work with in the field of quantum computing. I mean, Nottingham has a big group. Although that's not my particular area of expertise, we do work very closely with these other universities. So at all levels within project work, we'll be able to support you. Another word about the third year options is that, of course, as time progresses, every year we look at putting on, new modules and new topics. And of course, we understand, how important this subject is. So that may well be something that we'll introduce later on. OK, so that's my thoughts on quantum.
Brilliant, thank you. Next question is, how is computer science with enterprise taught? I appreciate that might be quite a big question. I'm assuming. So let me take that as delivery methods, I guess. So first of all, roughly 3/4 will be the modules from core computer science. So the way that's taught will be pretty similar. But I go back to my comment earlier on about our sort of broad delivery methods. So there will be a mixture of work where you can do sort of hands-on project work as part of that degree. Some of it will be delivered by little drop-ins from entrepreneurs and industry doing specialist talks. As regards the assessments, again, I mean, there will be a mixed approach there, so exams and coursework. I think that's probably most of what I could say there, unless there's any further add-on question to that. I'll let you know if anything else comes through on that one. We've got a couple of similar questions here, so I'll try and kind of squish them into one. So the first question is, are class sizes usually large or relatively small? If so, is there a rough number you can provide? And then there's another question a couple of minutes after saying, how many people are on the course on average? Is it a particularly popular subject? So we're talking numbers here. Right.
OK, good. Right. So as regards popularity, so the last couple of years, we've had around about 150 students come in our first year. So things are going well. We have a very large number of applicants we're very, very pleased about. That's the BSc. We've also had many, many students on our MScs. So recently, again, we're looking at numbers of sort of the order of 100 up to 150 or even more, depending on which particular courses that we're looking at. So we're very happy that we're doing well, lots of applications. In terms of student numbers and class sizes, so first of all, there's quite a difference in class sizes, and this also depends on the nature of the class. So, for example, if you're in the first year, the lectures, you'll be with everybody. So the class size for an individual lecture, where we're delivering core material, you might be within a very big group. However, individual support, you'll be working in smaller tutorials. So I mentioned the personal tutor meetings. I mean, they're a little bit more welfare focused, but sometimes we do discuss academic matters. For example, in the project modules, we do try to have some, we arrange as much as we can small group tutoring within those modules. Going on to the third year, class sizes will be maybe considerably smaller. So it's often the case that in a third year module, you may be in a group, say, of about 30 students. And let me just add on that while we of course, we're not in a world where each member of staff can always deliver a huge amount to any individual student. but as much as we can, speak to individuals, answer their questions, support people, say, with specific questions at the ends of lectures or in the last 5 minutes, then we'll certainly do that. So I think that's addressing that question, Nick.
Brilliant, thank you, Roy. I've certainly had a rush of questions, so I don't think we're going to have time to answer all of them.
Right.
Just for people watching, we'll probably be able to answer the next couple, but I put the link to the UniBuddy live chat in the Q&A, so everybody should be able to see that. That is on until 2 p.m, so we'll have to wind this up in about 5 minutes, but if we don't get through everything, you'll have another 5 minutes to quickly nip across there and ask their questions. So the next one, Roy, is how much prior knowledge is required for the software engineering course?
Okay, we're not asking for specific subjects, for example, studied at a very high level at A level. So whether computer science or software engineering, you won't need that. What we need more than anything are students who do have, some idea about the subject matter, so that they're clear that it's what they want to study. And what we try to do is to kick everything off more or less from the beginning. So, for example, within programming, we will start with some very simple problems at the start, which everyone can do. So everything is taught from scratch. Having said that, though, the kinds of problems that we set, I think I've already mentioned, can often be quite challenging. So we'll make sure that we bring along everyone with us. It's certainly useful whichever area you've studied in, whether it's A levels, BTEC, or what have you. It would be nice if you'd done some mathematics, maybe some computer science, etc. But the important thing is that you have some broad background, really interested in the subject, and want to fully engage with what we're offering. Many of the topics, as I say, will start from the beginnings, but will be quite fast-paced. We try to keep an eye on everybody, though, as I've said. So don't worry, at whichever part of the spectrum you're in terms of your knowledge and previous experience, then we'll try to work with you. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Thanks, Roy. I think we'll probably make this the last question.
Okay.
I'm going to blend two together again. So the first question is it necessary to have a good laptop for this course?
Okay.
And then the second question is, what type of facilities are there for computing? Are we limited to the software we can use?
I mean, clearly having things like a laptop, of course, is going to be useful, but you will be provided on campus with equipment that you need. I appreciate that at the moment, of course, things are rather challenging and difficult because of the COVID situation. It will certainly help, but it's not 100% crucial, shall we say. There's plenty of equipment provided here, for the teaching and study. Sorry, Nick, and the other part of this was so the laptop.
Yeah, the other part was about the facilities that we have and use of software.
Software, yes, of course, yes, yeah. Well, I've mentioned that we have a brand new lab. There are some pre-existing labs on campus, and they will continue to maintain those. So there's a lot of provision. As part of informatics, we will provide you with a very broad range of software. So, of course, the software that you have on the machines in our labs is much more extensive and much broader than what's provided to the students who are doing other subjects on campus. Within projects I've mentioned, there will often be scope for you to introduce specialist software that you're interested in. I mean, as long as there aren't issues of licensing, and as long as we as a school and our system support can actually allow the installation of other software, if you like, the world is your oyster. We'll try to support you in anything that you want to do. But yeah, everywhere is very well equipped in terms of the informatics machines. We'll either run dual boot systems or computers where, for example, there will be virtual Linux boxes and virtual Windows boxes, so you can access all of those different systems. And there's also a bit of support as well for Mac users, I believe. So hopefully that's addressed those questions.
Fantastic, Roy. That's been so useful for the last 50 minutes now.
Okay.
You've certainly made the most of your time.
Right.
So thank you so much, everybody, for your brilliant questions and for attending this talk. And huge thanks to Dr. Roy Kroll for that great talk and then very, very informative answers as well. So I hope you really enjoyed the rest of your day. There's still 8 minutes to head over onto the Unibuddy live chat. The link for that is just in the Q&A that I posted. Just a couple of people have asked, will these talks be available to watch again? Yes, they will. All the talks today across the entire main event are being recorded, and they will be available by Wednesday of next week on the new on-demand hub that the university is putting together, and that will appear on the website. If you registered for main event today, you'll almost certainly get an email about that when it goes live as well. But otherwise, that's everything from us. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your main event today.
Okay, thanks. Also, many thanks from me. Thanks for joining. I hope we can welcome you here in due course. And as Nick says, any questions you have, please do get in touch.